This is genuinely a cat detecting poop neutralizer. It's designed to either mount on the wall with a little bayonet cap, stick-on thing, or be hung in the vicinity of your cat's litter tray. And when it detects movement with the passive infrared detector, it holds off. It detects it, but it actually triggers but holds off until it detects movement is gone. And then it turns on a little tiny ozone generator at the bottom to neutralise the odour of the poop. So it does have other applications. It is rechargeable. It's got a very generous, because I've already tested it, 2,700 milliamp hour cell. It's got a micro USB charge port and the button for activating it. In fact, if I activate this right now, it's probably not. It's a blue sleep LED has lit, so that's no, it's not going to detect. Well, it's not going to trigger because it is detecting movement. Right, I shall turn that back off. Right, let's open it. That's what we like to do here. So this came from eBay, I believe. I got it a while ago, but I was making so many things about ozone at the time, and I thought I'd better hold off in case I cause fatigue by making too many videos about the same subject. That must have been during the pandemic then. So once we get inside, we see a juicy 18650. We see the high voltage module. We see the circuitry, which I shall remove and analyse. What's this little thing around it for? That's odd. And we've got the actual emitter here, which is the high voltage emitter bit that generates the ozone. So I shall take this circuit board out of this, and we shall explore the circuitry. I'll do that right now. One moment, please. Reverse engineering is complete. Let's explore. So we'll take a look at the back of the circuit board first. So I shall zoom down onto this for a better view. Zooming. That should do it. On the back, there's not much to see, just a few bus bar tracks for power. We've got the button for selecting, well, turning it on and off. I don't think there are other modes. I think it's just basically on and off. And we've got the USB connector, a micro USB connector. On the other side, we have more juicy contents. We have the input port, that's the USB port. Decoupling capacitors, we've got a classic 4056 charge chip for the lithium cell, which is in a connector. We've got a 3.3 volt, 662K voltage regulator with decoupling capacitor, and we've got the ozone connector with one of the connections switched to the negative via this AO9T MOSFET. We have the microcontroller, a couple of LEDs, and the NS612 passive infrared detection device, which combines a lot of circuitry and lets you set the sensitivity and the time delays just by the way the pins are connected, or in the case of the sensitivity of this one, it's set a mid sensitivity by using a voltage divider on one of the input pins. Okay, let's get the schematic, which makes more sense. Then I'll show you the ozone generating tip, if you will. Here's a USB port, decoupling capacitor in the input, straight to the 4056 charge controller. It's got a 2K resistor which sets roughly 500 milliamps, which is quite low charge current for this cell, which is labelled 2600 milliamp hour. And I tested it when I first got this, just how much charge it took, and it showed that it is a pretty decent cell. So that's going to take a while to charge at that current. The lithium cell's in its connector. It then goes over to the other connector for the ozone generator, but it also has a voltage regulator producing a stable 3.3 volt supply. The reason for that is because these passive infrared detectors require a very stable supply, and it just makes sense to do that. There is a little decoupling capacitor in that. There is a voltage divider, two 1 mega ohm resistors to set a midpoint voltage. These passive infrared detectors, you can set the time delay between 0 volts and the 3.3 volts, and the sensitivity between 0 volts and 3.3 volts. And if you, whatever voltage you put in, that sets the range of that unit. So they've set it to a mid sensitivity, which is quite good because they don't want it detecting too far, given it is just designed for localized areas. The time is pulled to the 0 volt rail, which means that that is set to the shortest time, which is about 2 seconds, which is all the microcontroller needs to do its business. There's a 1K resistor from the output of that, going to the microcontroller to tell it when something has been detected. We've got a couple of LEDs. And there are two bits missing here. The charge and the standby connectors are brought over to the microcontroller as well, so it knows the charging status, so it can show that either it's charging or the charge is complete, because that also tells it when power is connected to the USB input in the first place. It basically pulls the microcontroller's lines low for that particular state. So the two LEDs are used for indicating two 470 ohm resistors, one for each LED. We've got the push button going to the 0 volt rail for turning it on and off. And we've got the output to the MOSFET with a 10k pull down resistor. And that resistor, well actually that MOSFET is an A09T. A09T, very common MOSFET. And that switches the ozone generator. The ozone generator generates a high voltage. And it applies that high voltage between this very sharp spike and this outer ring. This does two things. Because the air is being charged, usually negatively, that charge makes the air move towards the ring. That creates a flow of air through the unit, which helps actually do its job. But also, because of the high voltage and the electron and air interaction activity at that sharp point, you get a corona discharge, which is a little purple glow around there. And in that purple glow, it's basically a molecular lab. It's stripping the air molecules apart, letting them recombine. The oxygen atoms get split apart from the molecule O2, and they recombine, some of them as O3 or as just single atoms of oxygen, and that is what gives it the sterilizing, cleaning effect. Now, this is the point that a particular type of people will say that ozone is very harmful, don't breathe it in. This produces trace levels. You're surrounded with ozone in the air at the moment because it's a natural part of air at very low levels. What this does is it creates a very slight area of enhanced ozone, which helps just neutralize the odours in that area. But the levels it produces are not toxic, not unless you actually held this under your nose and breathed it all day long. But this is as simple as it is. It's a little potted module. 3.5 to 4.2 volts was the range I tested it before the glow disappeared, which means it's not really using the battery below about half level, but still within the range of 3.3 volt regulator. Noting that this doesn't go through that. And the current range over that, 3.5 to 4.2 volts, is 20 to 30 milliamps. And it literally is just stainless steel plate with a hole in the middle and then a little crimped on stainless steel spike just pushed up behind that, and they kind of melt it into the plastic so it fuses in and it stays put. It's all held in with heat staking. It's very simple but very effective, and this unit does create a very, very slight hint of ozone if you sniff it up close while it's running. Not that you can, because as soon as you get close to it, it turns off and goes into standby mode again. I do not know what this ring around the base of the sensor was for, unless it was to make sure the sensor doesn't get pushed in. I don't know. I suppose it could get pushed in. That's possibly what it is, actually. Maybe it is to keep that sensor pushed against the front plate, although it is held in place by the plastic clips as well, the actual standoffs in here. So I really don't know why that foam pad is there. I don't think it's going to really have an effect. I don't think the ozone's really circulating around this area, although some probably will actually permeate the unit. But that is it. It's an interesting unit, interesting concept. I do feel that it's probably one of those things that unless you are particularly delicate to cat whiff from the odour, the litter trays, I think it's one of those things that after you'd run it for a while, when the battery went flat, you wouldn't ever charge it again. Not sure. This would also possibly be useful in the fridge or in a small cupboard, just detecting every time there's activity, it would just give another little burst to freshen it up, because ozone definitely works in the fridge. I've got a unit here charging that I use in my fridge, and it's got the same arrangement down there, the same hole and spike with the high voltage circuitry, and it just puts a wee whiff every so often into the fridge, and it keeps it smelling very fresh inside. But there we have it, literally the cat detecting poop neutralizer. It's a thing.